Hello, class, and welcome to today's lecture on the psychology of social situations. I'm thrilled to have you here. We get to explore this fascinating dynamic relationship between individuals and the people around them. Social psychology is a vast field that really seeks to understand how our thoughts and our feelings and behaviors are influenced by the social context in which we find ourselves. As you may know, each of us is unique, and our individual characteristics have an important impact on how we interact with others. Our personality traits, our desires and motivations and emotions all play a role in shaping our social behavior. But so does the social situation. Social psychologists have long recognized that our behavior is also profoundly influenced by the situation. This includes how people will interact with us on a daily basis. It includes our family and our friends. It includes the rituals that we engage in with others. And also how and what we encounter through media and technology and the images and ideas that we are exposed to. Even people we imagine or remember can have an impact on our social behavior. And social psychologists believe that human behavior is determined by both a person's characteristics and the social situation. So it's important to always remember both. When caring for people, when discussing with people, when helping people heal, it's important to always consider and look at their relationships with others as well, because they play a strong influence on the behavior of the person. So in this lecture, we will explore how social influence shapes our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. And we will look at all the different variables. Now, within this, we will really recognize that our knowledge about our social world really develops through experience and the influence of the knowledge structures of a person's behavior. So, today I want to share with you a little story, maybe a few stories, because this is one of those times when it's great to share stories to illustrate things. The three themes that we will be taking a look at today are conforming, liking and falling in love, and stereotypes and prejudice. So first, as always, I want to tell you a story. This is a sad story, the story of Kitty Genovese. It's a tragic and chilling reminder of the dark side of human nature, and also an illustration of the power of the situation. In 1964, in the Queens borough of New York City, a young woman named Kitty Genovese was brutally attacked and murdered outside her apartment building. Now, what makes this story even more shocking is that the attack took place over a period of approximately 30 minutes. And despite the fact that the attack was witnessed by numerous people, no one intervened to help her. The story of Kitty Genovese quickly gained national attention, not just because of the brutality of the attack, but because it seemed to highlight a disturbing social phenomenon known as the bystander effect, or what we can call social apathy. And this phenomenon really suggests that the more people who witness an emergency situation, the less likely they are to intervene and help the victim. At the time of the attack, Kitty Genovese was returning home from work late at night. Her attacker, Winston Mosley, followed her and eventually attacked her with a knife. Kitty screamed for help, and her cries were heard by many of her neighbors, who turned on their lights and watched from their windows, and mostly fled the scene after being scared off by the lights, but returned 10 minutes later to find Kitty lying in a hallway of her apartment building. And so she continued her attack, and Kitty once again screamed for help. This time, some of her neighbors called the police, but no one intervened to help her physically. And the next day, the New York Times ran a story with the headlines, 37 who saw murder didn't call the police. The story suggests that 37 people had witnessed the attack, but not one of them had intervened to help. This number was later disputed, and it is unclear exactly how many people witnessed. However, what is clear is that the phenomenon of the bystander effect was in play. With so many people watching, each person may have assumed that someone else would help, leading to a diffusion of responsibility and a lack of action. The Kitty Genovese case sparked a wave of research into the bystander effect, which has shown that people are more likely to help in emergency situations when there are fewer people around. In fact, studies have shown that the likelihood of receiving help decreases as the number of bystanders increases. And this effect occurs because each individual bystander feels less personal responsibility to help when there are others around. They may assume that, and wrongly, that someone else will take action, or they may feel that their own help is not necessary, when it is. The story of Kitty Genovese is a tragic reminder that social apathy and the bystander effect can have serious consequences. And it also highlights the importance of taking action in emergency situations and not assuming that someone else will help. As responsible people, we must continue to study this phenomenon and find ways to encourage people to take action when they witness an emergency, and also for us to remind us that being lazy is not an excuse. Continuing on, I want to explore a little bit of the psychology of conformity, because that's a fascinating topic within social psychology that examines how and why individuals conform to the norms and expectations of the group. Now, conformity really refers to the process of adjusting one's attitudes and beliefs and behaviors to match those of a particular group or a norm. Now, before I go any further, I want to point something out. So, see this picture on the slide? This is a picture of Police Battalion 101. It's a group of guys having a good time in a social situation. And it looks harmless, right? Everyone looks normal and clean cut and professional. They look happy. They're having a drink. And they're having a smile. But almost everyone in this picture is a murderer. All because the power of the situation. Now, conformity can occur for various reasons, including the desire to fit in with a group, the need for approval or acceptance, or the belief that the group is more knowledgeable or correct than the individual. The pressure to conform can be explicit or implicit, and it can manifest in different ways, such as through peer pressure, social influence, or what is called sometimes groupthink. Now, studies on conformity have revealed some interesting things. First, there's a famous example of Asch conformity experiments conducted in the 1950s, and they showed that individuals were more likely to conform to the opinions of a group even when those opinions were clearly incorrect. Now, in these experiments, participants were asked to match the length of a line with 3 other lines. When the majority of the group gave the wrong answer, participants were more likely to conform and give that same incorrect answer. And other studies have shown that conformity can have positive or negative effects depending upon the situation. For instance, conformity can promote social harmony and cohesion in groups, but it can also lead to groupthink, which can be detrimental to decision making and problem solving. Now, sometimes conformity can go horribly wrong. Conformity is a powerful force that can shape behavior, attitudes, beliefs, and it's the process of changing one's thoughts or behaviors to align to the norms or expectations of a group. So while conformity is often seen as a harmless part of social interaction, it can also lead to devastating consequences when it's taken to the extreme. And one of the most extreme examples of conformity gone wrong is the Holocaust. Now, you need to be mindful here. The Holocaust was a systematic and industrial genocide that killed 6 million Jews by the Nazi regime and its collaborators. Now, while the motivations of Hitler and other leading Nazis are often attributed to psychopathology and personality traits such as authoritarianism, social psychologists have still been very fascinated by the question of why so many ordinary people, so many ordinary Germans went along with the Nazi leadership's plan to exterminate the Jews. And one explanation that has emerged from this research is conformity. And that's where this picture comes in. Studies of the Reserve Police Battalion 101, responsible for killing 38,000 Jews and the deportation of 45,000 others, revealed that almost 90% of the group committed murders by the end of the Holocaust, even though they did not have explicit orders to do so. Furthermore, their actions could not be attributed to psychopathology or a previous history of violence. Instead, many of these people were law-abiding citizens and were part of the police because of that. But instead, many of them were initially horrified and disgusted by what they were doing. But the desire not to be isolated and ostracized or perceived as being weak motivated them to commit unspeakable acts of violence and murder. And the desire to conform and fit in with the group is indeed a powerful force that can override individual morality and ethics. Social psychologists have identified several factors that contribute to conformity, including normative social influence, which is the desire to be accepted and approved by others, and informational social influence, which is the tendency to rely on others for information when we are uncertain about how to behave. In the case of the Holocaust, normative social influence played a significant role. Many ordinary Germans wanted to be seen as loyal to their country and their comrades, and they feared the social consequences of speaking out or resisting. They also internalized the anti-Semitic beliefs and attitudes that were pervasive in German society at the time, and as a result, they were likely to go along with the group, even when it meant committing heinous acts of violence. The Holocaust really does serve as a sobering reminder of the power of conformity and the dangers of blindly following the norms and expectations of a group. It also highlights the importance of individual morality and the need to critically think and be an independent decision maker, even in the face of social pressures. But lest we think that the Nazis were somehow a human aberration, consider this. The psychology of conformity has been used in various contexts to direct behavior, including the military. In military training, conformity is used as a tool to mold soldiers into a cohesive and fighting force. The training process aims to instill in soldiers a sense of identity, of loyalty and obedience to their unit and to their leaders. And one way in which the military uses conformity is through the use of, you guessed it, uniforms. By dressing soldiers in identical clothing, the military creates a sense of unity and belonging among soldiers. And this sense of unity helps to foster a strong group identity and can increase the likelihood that soldiers will conform to the norms and expectations of their group. The military also uses conformity through the use of drills and ceremonies. Activities require soldiers to move and act in unison, reinforcing the idea that individuality is less important than group cohesion. And so through these activities, soldiers learn to respond to commands without hesitation and to act as a single unit. Now, in addition to these methods, the military also uses conformity through the chain of command. Soldiers are taught to respect and obey their superiors without question and to follow orders even if they disagree with them. And this hierarchical structure reinforces the idea that individuals are part of a larger organization and that actions must serve the greater good of that organization. Now, while conformity can be used as a useful tool in the military for directing soldiers and creating a cohesive unit, it can also have negative consequences. Blind obedience to authority can lead soldiers to commit atrocities or engage in unethical behavior, as seen in the example of the Reserve Police Battalion 101 that we discussed at the beginning of this section. And it's important for military leaders to balance the need for conformity with the need for ethical behavior and critical thinking among their soldiers. And this includes society as well. And it reminds us that leadership is so very important, good leadership, because leadership has an impact on conformity and what happens in society. Good leadership is essential because it can influence the behavior of a group in positive ways, such as promoting cooperation and collaboration, enhancing performance, and achieving common goals. Conversely, poor leadership can result in negative outcomes such as poor decision-making, low morale, and reduced productivity. So the ability of leaders to influence others through conformity is well documented in social psychology. And studies have shown that people are more likely to conform to behavior of others when they perceive them as credible or knowledgeable or trustworthy. And in the context of leadership, this means that leaders who exhibit these qualities are more likely to influence the behavior of their followers. Now, additionally, leaders who can create a sense of shared identity and purpose among group members are more likely to inspire conformity to group norms and goals. And this is because people have a natural tendency to identify and conform to groups that they perceive to be important to their social identity. In essence, effective leaders can create a sense of identity by promoting a shared vision, shared values, shared goals for the group. Furthermore, the impact of conformity can be amplified by the power dynamic between leaders and followers. Leaders who hold formal positions of authority can use their power to create and force obedience from followers. And this type of conformity is often seen in the military, where soldiers are expected to follow orders without question. However, I hope it's clear to you that the use of power to create conformity can have negative consequences if people and leaders abuse their authority, or if followers blindly follow without critical thinking or moral consideration. A lot of important things to keep in mind. We're going to pause there in our lecture, and we will come back and continue the rest of this lecture after you have a little break. I'll see you in a little while. You take care. Goodbye.